What's up guys, Americana back with another video. We've covered what's bullish in this market. Now let's talk about what's bearish. And it's not just about price action. If you think we're done just because Bitcoin's price has gone down over the last few weeks, that's not the correct way to think about the market. The real risks are subtle and happening on a macro level, and they're coming up quickly. So we have 3 things to cover in this video. Make sure you stick to the end. Let me know if you have any questions, but without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, everybody, you know it, you love it, you hate it. I personally hate it, but Bitcoin's monthly MACD chart, just not something I can ignore, not something I can shake. As much as I would love to do, screw it, I'll leave the lines green, I don't care. Just not looking great. This thing, historically, when it has rolled over, has not been good. I don't really have data back here, I wish I did. But you can see, even if a wild wonky chance that we're somewhere like this, well, this was just before COVID, 50% correction, things like that, still not a fun time to be in the market. But the point is, this thing confirmed last week, or just a few days ago now, on the monthly close. It's pretty straightforward. You guys can see it. Red means bad, green means good, and we're currently red. It's about as simple as it gets. I'm not even going to try to convolute it. Let's move on. MACD means we're in a bear market. Always been pre-capitulation. Oh, one thing I do have to mention. It doesn't mean we don't get some sort of, oh, that was a terrible circle, sort of exit pump, right? This one kind of more so came before. This one even a little bit before, or just sideways chop, right? Exit pump / sideways chop. Doesn't mean that that's on the cards. The market's never going to go in a straight line down. It's going to move flat enough and sideways enough just for people to get bullish enough to then reverse on them, if this is what's going to play out. All right, the next one, USDC plus USDT dominance. We talked about this in a video, I believe, last week, looking at this range high area. This past week we did close underneath. It's only Monday as I'm recording this video, so it has currently been open for a little over 24 hours, 26 hours, and we got an immediate spike to start the week. Since then, kind of coming back down a little bit. I also want to mention, you guys know what I've said about stablecoins. This chart is going to naturally trend up into the right. So I'm not sure it's the end all be all when it comes to crypto and when it comes to when to be in the market, when to be out of the market, things like that. When they're literally passing bills to incentivize the creation of more and more and more and more stable coins from whoever wants to make their own stable coin, this chart is going to trend up, because as there are more stable coins out there, as there's more demand for stable coins because it can be used for different things, or it has the clarity for businesses or large institutions to start using them, they instantly have to issue more stable coins. How do those things get issued? Well, they buy physical assets, they buy liquid assets, most of them being US treasuries, US bonds, things like that. So these things can be created on a whim, and it's, I don't really know how to say this, not market cap sensitive, but it's always pegged to $1. Or I guess inelastic is a better phrasing. It's not the exact definition of inelastic, but my point is it's always going to be pegged to $1. So if the government of Saudi Arabia comes out tomorrow and says, hey, Circle, I need $10 trillion in stable coins issued, here's the cash, go buy the gold, go buy whatever you need to back it and back the reserves, and let me know when the $10 trillion hits my account. Well, $10 trillion would be about 10 times the size of Bitcoin, or the total, I forget what the total market cap's at now, but we'll just say 10 times the size of Bitcoin. So what would happen to USDC, USDT dominance during that time? It would absolutely skyrocket, go parabolic. You'd almost have to not even consider it a part of the crypto market anymore, because if you did, people would be like, oh my goodness, the crypto market's worth $11 trillion now. So that's just kind of my point about stablecoins. But it does, for the most part, or in the nearer term, when you get these flushes and things like that, this coincides with good and bad times in the market. And I think getting out of this range right now, considering where we're at, might not be the best thing for us, or just something to look out for. If we get a massive spike next week or something and nothing happens, then it's like, okay, we know those stable coins came from people demanding them for actual use cases, not for just trading in and out of crypto, which is typically how people talk about USDC and USDT. But anyways, nonetheless, I'm not saying negate the whole thing, but definitely something to look out for on why we could potentially be bearish. I kind of mentioned it in this video. It doesn't really need to be stated, but what else is bearish? Well, Bitcoin's price action. Straight down for almost 2 months now. Really a month, really like 3 weeks, 2 weeks of sideways, and then 3 more weeks, whatever that gets you. But my point is, no new lower or higher lows, no higher highs, just lower low and lower high for 6 weeks straight. That puts a damper on the market, obviously. Now, what do we have to look at that? That's when we kind of lean on our MACDs and things like that on what it means. But in the near term, obviously it's not going to be good for your coins in the near term if Bitcoin is going straight down. I don't care what Bitcoin dominance looks like it's about to do. If Bitcoin is going in a straight line down, it's not going to be fun. Things have held up well. Bitcoin dominance has held up well even through that, which does, give me a decently positive outlook on things. But I think people underestimate the fact that for whatever reason, that there's a million ways you can do technical analysis on Bitcoin and be bearish. So whichever reason it is, the point is what's bearish right now is that Bitcoin is going down. It sounds stupid and like oversimplified, but that really is the case currently. Like I said, if Bitcoin was going up and Bitcoin dominance was declining in the way that we've seen throughout this, everybody would be happy, go lucky, nothing would be wrong, and we just come on here and make videos about, hey, the Russell 2000 broke out, looks good, guys, I took profit on this coin, make sure you guys are selling, ha ha ha. But it's not the case right now, and that's because Bitcoin's just trading like shit. It happens sometimes. So kind of segueing or piggybacking on that statement about Bitcoin, what else is bearish is the sentiment. Obviously, the sentiment is a reaction of prices going down and people worrying and things like that. But when sentiment is low, it has an effect on the market that I think a lot of people overlook. People oversimplify it and say, oh my goodness, fear and greed is at 10. I should buy Bitcoin. Or I should buy whatever, because when fear and greed gets this low, I buy the blood in the streets. Warren Buffett told me that I have to be greedy when others are fearful, right? It's not that simple. Fear and greed index hit 10 in here too, guys. And then guess what? It hit 10 about a million other times on the way down to 16K. So it's not always true. For mid-cycle corrections and dips and things like that, yes, it remains true. But just always buying every time fear and greed hits a certain level, over the years, yes, Bitcoin will trend up into the right and you'll make money. You will be wrecked a few times just trying to blindly just hit the button because fear and greed is low. Why is that the case? Because when these bear markets do come in, they are sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. Now, what do I mean by that? You guys have seen it. We can check crypto fear and greed index. It's at 16 currently. You guys have seen comments. You guys have seen the YouTube videos. You guys have seen whatever have you, the thumbnails. If you're on crypto Twitter, whatever have you. Everybody's bullish or everybody's bearish. Most people are bearish, okay? Or it's a mix. Smart people are bearish. Dumb people are bearish, just to farm engagement, whatever have you. But the main vibe is bearish. When too many people turn bearish at the lows, this is near-term thinking. This is not macro thinking. It can be macro if we're talking about a situation right here, but this is near-term thinking. Price will often drop more, even though people are already extremely fearful, whatever have you. Price will often continue to drop more. And now I'm kind of reflecting back to I don't want to say, mid-October, somewhere around there. We're around the 98K level, or maybe we had just lost it and people were beginning to get bearish and things like that. But price can continue to drop strictly based on that sentiment being low. And it's not because they're right to say we are in a bear market and I know it and I have good reason to be scared because we're in a bear market. It almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Everybody is selling and nobody is buying. Everybody who's selling is extremely scared, and there are more buyers than sellers because people who aren't selling are also scared to buy at the same time. So in the near term, price can flush much, much lower, much, much faster when fear is high. This is what people don't understand. Fear is high, the market can actually move much quicker and much faster to the downside because everybody is fearful and it becomes self-fulfilling. If I'm looking at Billy Bob and he's looking at Jim Joe and Billy Bob gets scared and I get scared, and then Jim Joe sees me and he's scared, and then now Billy Bob's scared because he's looking at him, right? And then we all end up selling at the same time, and nobody's there to buy because the people across the street see how scared we are. You guys see kind of what I'm saying? At that point in time, that's how price gets flushed very quickly into the macro support, into the institutional buyers, into the smart money zones. Right? That's how those things happen. It becomes self-fulfilling of just people getting scared and scared and scared. And that's kind of why we've seen, or part of the reason we've seen this kind of cascading effect over the last few weeks, in my opinion. This selling has just been very, 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 very aggressive. And again, this isn't some macro statement that, oh my goodness, fear and greed hit 10 or something like that, and now we get to go make new all-time highs. It's not always how it works, right? Bitcoin chopping around in here, and let's say Bitcoin dominance is dropping or something like that, and we get back to here, that can be enough to get us back into extreme greed. It doesn't mean full-on reversal. It doesn't mean immediate reversal. And oftentimes when we do get into those extreme fear zones is when price actually starts moving the fastest. See if I can pull it up in here. So you guys see it on here. We got into extreme fear on the 14th, and this is at $94,000. And from the 14th, the 22nd, so less than 10 days, right, we dropped all the way down to 84.6, right? And that's on the daily close. So that entire move was what did I say, 94? I forgot what I said. So this move right there, kind of the most violent straight down move we had thus far in that entire move, came when fear and greed was actually the lowest that it was. Okay. And if it's going to remain there, it's likely that we see more whipsaw, more violent price action and things like that, because people see this low get taken out and they're like, oh my goodness, I don't want to hold down to here and sell back here. I'm going to let go in here, and I'm going to let go because he let go, blah, blah, blah. Point is, it's going to be bearish, and then it's going to be volatile in a bearish way with with fear and greed at these lows. Now this ends up being some sort of mid-cycle correction. We don't know if that's the case because we have things like the monthly MACD, but let's say, best case scenario, this ends up being the low of this, mid-cycle correction, right? We kind of, oh my goodness, kind of come up here, chop, and then just explode out or something, right? Then yes, people will look back and be like, oh my goodness, we should have bought when crypto fear and greed was extremely low. And yes, that is the case. But since we are already in this situation right now, I'm simply trying to point out that when we do get this low on fear and greed, this is when you see the most volatile price action, the most violent price action, the scariest price action. And that again is self-fulfilling because it's people's fear that got us down here in the first place, and everything has to get sorted out before we can continue on which way or the other. So I kind of alluded to this in this example, but I have it on my notes here to talk about, right? Fear and greed kind of becomes a paradox at some point, at least in my opinion, because the most violent bearish price action is going to be marked by the highest amounts of fear. That almost looked like something I didn't want it to look like. Fix my chart. But the most volatile price action is going to be, marked by the most amount of fear, right? Consistent selling, things like that. We do get back up into these retracements however we get here. Kind of the inverse point is like maybe this price action to get us back up to this level right here was completely natural and warranted and things like that. We had ETF inflows, we had Coinbase premium, we had spot buyers stepping in, we had strong bids from large buyers, whatever have you. That thing was completely natural. But right, when we talk about the paradox and self-fulfilling part of it, this move back into retracement levels could be completely greedy and unwarranted. And I promise you this move is going to be the one that happens the fastest. Why? Because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I look at Jim Bob and he wants to buy, so I want to buy, and then Billy Bob wants to buy, and then the people across the street are like, what's going on over there? I want to make some money, I want to buy. So then at some point the move becomes completely greed based. This paradox is self-fulfilling prophecy of greed and greed and greed, and that's where the market can actually reverse. So do I think we're in this point where Bitcoin can reverse here in the sense of at least get a relief bounce and things like that? Absolutely, and we cover that in videos this week. But I do think it is kind of important to talk about how we got here, the sentiment behind it, and just kind of diving into a point or a topic that I think is interesting on how fast people's sentiments shift and things like that. I have shifted sentiment as well, or at least been more, yeah, I've shifted sentiment. But mine has come from a place of like, I've always said 98K like this entire time. Like if we lose 98K, I go on alert, I go on watch. So I'm following the same plan that I've talked about, and I'm not going to move off of that plan just because we get some euphoric moments up in here. If my sell signal flashes right here when the market is euphoric and everybody is saying that we can go much, much higher, I'm going to be letting go. And everybody who's buying in here is going to be forgetting about what happened in here and how they wouldn't touch it and screaming bear market and things like that. So it's okay to flip, but you can't flip flop. Ooh, that was a bar. It's okay to flip your bias, but you can't flip flop your bias, right? And then I'll join you guys back and be bullish if we get back above those levels. That's a different video. Anyways, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. I just want to show you those few kind of more bearish things, and then what I think is the most bearish thing currently. Like I said, Bitcoin's price action and the sentiment around that price action is severely hurting us in the sense of how much volatility we're getting at these lows, and the size of this move and the whipsaw nature of it is kind of my point that I wanted to make there. Anyways, guys, make sure you guys also check out my What's Bullish in the Market video this week. And if you think that's conflicting and you don't know what to do, make sure you check out my sell plan video and how I'm handling the market this week. I'm trying to put it on a silver platter for you guys. But anyways, I appreciate you guys watching to the end. Seems like these videos are going to be a little longer this week. Hopefully you guys find the content useful. As always, ask me any questions you need. I got links in my bio, free materials. I got a free Discord. I'm always available if you guys need help or need to make comments or have questions. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.